Okay,
We're up and running. Okay, welcome everyone and good afternoon. And this is a special meeting called by the chair. Let's quickly go around the room, introduce ourselves for the record.
Rosemary Tupellis, designee for Police Commissioner Bratton.
John Dorsey, alternate designee for Controller Stringer.
Susanna Vickers, designee for Controller Scott Stringer.
Keith Snow, Law Department.
Carolyn Walter, designee for Commissioner Jacques Sheeha.
John Adler, designee for Mayor Blasio.
Nicole Jambrisi, Council Police Pension Fund. Present by invitation.
Christopher Minor, Police Pension Fund, present by invitation.
Joe Rayo, PBA.
Joe Alejandro, designee for Patrick Lynch, John Puglisi, and Mubarak Abdul-Jabbar.
Chris McGrath, PBA by invitation.
Bob Ganley, SBA, designee for Ed Mullins.
Luke Turco, LBA.
Roy Richter, CEA.
Michael Palladino, DEA.
Okay, Sparks, DEA.
Karen Paxton, DEA by invitation.
Sherry Chansey, Actuary, present by invitation.
Bob Sanskis, Pension Fund, present by invitation.
Kevin Holleran, Pension Fund by invitation.
Mike Jakubowicz, Pension Fund, present by invitation.
Okay, so I'm going to read into the record the notice that was sent out on Friday. Pursuant to the rules and regulations of the Police Pension Fund Article 2, Rule 4, I hereby call a special meeting of the Police Pension Fund's Board of Trustees for Tuesday, December 22nd, 2015 at 1600 hours. The business to be considered at this meeting is the resolution put forth by the Actuary of the City of New York at the December 9th, 2015 meeting of the Board of Trustees concerning mortality tables. So, to recap on our procedural history, the resolution that was put forth by the Actuary concerning mortality tables was tabled by the finance representative at the December 9th meeting of the Board of Trustees. His issues were subsequently resolved, and the matter was subsequently tabled by the PBA at the December 16th Common Investment meeting of the Board. Carolyn? Or John?
So, I'll do it, I guess. I would move that we approve the actuary's resolution from December 9th concerning adopting new mortality tables for the police pension fund.
Second.
Okay.
As far as I'm concerned, there is still a table on the matter, and nothing can go forward until either PBA rescinds that table, or we get to the 13th of January when we had said we would like it that time to vote on the matter. I don't think there's anything else. But before we address that issue, I would like to say that I've been serving on this board for the majority of time since 1999, and I have never, ever seen a special meeting called with regards to any matter before the board. Specifically, one with just in regards to a table requested by a trustee. If this is the new paradigm, I'm very concerned about this. I think this matter is again not been broached in my time, and I don't know if it's ever been done before with regards to a matter of a table. So I express my serious concern about this and shock that this has been done. And I would just say in the future, if this is the new paradigm, then no one's tables are safe. And no procedure is safe in the future. Especially since we're talking about rules and regulations that go back to 1940. So I leave it at that, and I express again that my table is still before the board and is still guiding at least this organization until January 13th.
So I'll respond. I think that the issue here is that the actuary has expressed that she has deadlines to meet, that delaying the vote on the motion until January 13th will undermine her ability to meet those deadlines. And I would actually ask her to speak to that matter herself. Joe, I don't think this is an effort to undermine the paradigm of tables that has existed whereby any trustee's request for a table, particularly on a disability matter, has essentially been automatically granted. I think we have had examples on the investment side where there's been a timing issue where a table wasn't possible because we had to make a decision in order to get into the investment before the deadline for the investment. And I would put this more in that category than the category of tabling a disability motion or issue that didn't have a hard and strict deadline. And I guess what I would say in terms of my motion is that effectively the motion is not only to approve the mortality table resolution, mortality tables, but also to effectively, I don't know what the right term is, but undo the table motion. It's a little confusing because we're talking about mortality tables and, whatever you call it, whatever the description is for tabling or table in the.
You're looking to kill it.
What's that?
You were looking to kill it.
To kill it, yeah, no, that's not the right, that's not the term I would use, that's your term.
Well, considering we talk about mortality tables, it's an apt.
Well, and the issue on mortality tables is that people are living longer, which is a good thing. And we need to put more money into the system in order to account for that.
I don't discount that. Right. I understand that. I think, given the short period of time, as I have expressed before, I think it's clearly on the record why I requested a table for this organization. We have been back and forth with the actuary's office. We are going to still now go through some more information with regards to further requests. I think at the end of the day, the table still stands. I think if we're going to have anything, before we talk about anything else, it's the matter of the table. It's as simple as that. And the only way you can reach one is to discount the other.
Right, well, that's why I'm saying I believe that the motion effectively undoes the table.
I think you have to have separate motions.
I think the board can do whatever it wants, right?
Well, let me just say this. I think the PBA made a motion that the request was reasonable. It was a request to review and analyze data. I don't think that's completed yet. And the time frame was kind of reasonable too. We're talking about 21 days from now. So I would have to ask the actuary, because I can't seem to get a real reasonable answer to this. Is there any detrimental effect to the police pension fund if the table is honored and the vote is then cast on the 13th of January?
I would be proceeding with mortality assumptions that are not adopted by the board, which is, again, not customary to what the practice has been in the past. I do want to say, again, on record that, these, in November, a representative from my office had come to this board and expressed that we will be changing the mortality assumptions. And the memo that I had sent out in early December concerns a request to adopt a new mortality table. These mortality tables, are based off of data that is specific to your plan, and it shows that members are living longer. And as fiduciaries, I think that a decision should be made on the fact that to fund a plan based on what past trends have shown, rather than on a number. And the memo contains the mortality improvement scale it's all it contains, basically. That's the only thing I'm changing. And that is a published table that is distributed by the Society of Actuaries. So that's the table that's on Google. You can Google it, it's there. There's no alterations to that. And to make a decision, and we've been working with PBA, like Joe has said, to answer some questions and the back and forth and, to help them understand mortality improvement scale, what it is, how it works, and what kind of data was encompassed in deriving this scale. And so, again, my point is a decision should be made on what the end dollar is, if that's what the request from the table is for. That should be made on the fact that, again, as your technical advisor, I'm telling you that your membership is no longer and money needs to be put in the fund to make certain that benefit is will be paid when due.
And I understand exactly where you're coming from. We are living longer, and the table should reflect that. So I concur with that. My question is there any financial detrimental effect to the police pension fund by waiting the 21 days and honoring what the PBA's table, which, as I said, I think the time frame was reasonable and the request was reasonable?
The appropriation letters will reflect the new mortality changes. I don't know if that yes or no.
What
I don't know if that
you're moving forward regardless of the vote here. So isn't that what we're saying?
Yes.
I see. Mr. Counsel, want to weigh in at all on this issue? Give me that deer in the headlight.
It's consistent with what we've said at prior meetings. At this point, I don't want to comment because the Corporation Counsel has looked at the issue and he hasn't provided me guidance. So until that point comes, I'm not going to comment.
All right, so we had a motion made by the mayor's representative. If there is not support for it, then it won't pass. But we have a motion on the floor, so should we do a roll call vote?
I think so, right?
Yeah. Well, again, what's the roll vote on? I think it's two issues.
Do you want to take a vote on the table issue? Is that what you're saying? You want to separate it out?
That's the key here, is at the end of the day, I don't think you can proceed with while there's a table here.
Well, I think like the mayor's representative said, one is dependent on the other. If we're moving forward, that means that there is no table. So if you want to separate it and take a vote on the table, we can do it that way too. If there isn't support for passage, it's not going to pass. So
I think after the table, there's no more roll call vote.
Right.
The table.
no, we can vote on the table though. I mean,
We can vote on the table first. That's
one
that's
depends
okay
on
with
the
me.
other.
I think one depends on the other. I think procedurally, there's a table. If you had a table on there, the matter is tabled. Before you can proceed to the issue, which the tabling, the issue that was at in front of the board and was tabled, before you can even get to that issue, you have to deal with, take the table off the table. That's the way it
Do you
is.
want me to remake my motion?
Yeah,
Okay.
go ahead.
So I'll say, I move to take the table off the table. Wait a minute.
Take the table off the table. Rescinding the
Set
table.
aside
Thank
the
you.
PBA's table.
Right.
You're making a motion to set
rescind the
aside.
PBA's table.
To set aside, okay, to set aside the PBA's table.
PBA requests a roll call vote.
In order to vote
Need a second.
on the motion I made earlier. So yes, we need a second.
Second,
But you-
unless someone else.
So I requested a roll call vote on the matter.
Okay.
Seconded by.
May I ask a
So,
procedural question before we get into the roll call vote? Has there ever been a motion to rescind a table before, once the table is approved?
I don't know. I've never seen it before.
Good question.
Yeah.
I know we vote on tables. I don't know about retracting a table. I don't know.
I don't know if it's been done before, but I mean, Robert's Rules does speak to it, and the board may, of course, modify a previous vote, and it's done by subsequent.
But truthfully, we're not a strict Robert's
We are
Rules
not,
board.
that's correct.
And so if we're proceeding down this road, it creates
Well,
precedent.
the bylaws don't address that issue, and so in those instances, that's when we look at Robert's Rules for guidance. Not that it's binding, but in my experience, that is when we would look to Robert's Rules when we don't have a bylaw on that particular point.
So just having researched Robert Rules at
Yeah.
great length, given some of the procedural issues before the board, I believe It's up to the movement to set aside their own motion. Otherwise, it requires a 2/3 vote to set aside the
That's
motion.
generally correct, but the statute would obviously supersede the 2/3 vote, and any action of this board is done by majority, pursuant to the statute, so that would
But to the extent that the statute doesn't speak to the procedural elements that govern the board, then Robert's rules are supposed to apply, just generally, but again, I'm just getting warmed by the fire on that.
I've heard this before.
If I may, I believe that there was an instance within the last 18 months, 24 months may have been, at an investment meeting.
Not to rescind a
No,
table.
where a table was requested.
Requested and was not allowed by
And
the
it
board.
was not allowed. There was a vote taken and the table was not allowed.
In this case,
and the vote went
The
forward.
Controller's Office has broached the subject whether a table rightfully granted by the board has ever been rescinded or request to rescind that has ever occurred before.
And that's
not happened in my
That
time.
has not happened in my complete memory, which is subject to guidance.
All right, so we have the law department's opinion that we can go forward with the vote on the table that the mayor's representative made. So,
I mean, yes,
I
because,
believe that.
I was gonna say, the board did previously vote to reinstitute a table, right? And that was a revision of past actions, so this would be similar in that if the board wants, it could revisit the table.
But also to distinguish that action, that was because one trustee requested a table
And then
rescinded it, in my opinion, outside of the normal process, where one trustee would have tabled the matter at that meeting, but was prohibited from doing so because the trustee requested it. And now by rescinding their vote, it left us in limbo somewhat to request a table. We couldn't do that unless we broached the subject with everyone, and then we took care of it at the December 16th Common Investment meeting. So I think that's what distinguished everything. It would be very difficult to run any meeting if we request any trustee, if we're going to take a table, that if anyone has a potential table at that moment to put their table on the record. I think it's very difficult. No one runs meetings like that. So that's what distinguished that action. As unusual as it was, it was the only way that could be done. And then the board has voted to okay that table. So now, at this point, the only action I think that should before this board is to request to rescind our table, which is extremely out of the ordinary. I've not seen it in 16 years. I've never heard of it being done. So, again, that's of serious concern of mine.
Can I request a 2-minute break?
Okay.
Sure.
Sure. All right, we'll take a break.
Okay, so a roll call vote to rescind the table.
Yes.
We're good?
Yeah, you're good. Go ahead.
PBA?
No.
DEA?
No.
SBA?
No.
LBA?
No.
Mayor's Office?
Yes.
Finance?
Yes.
Police Commissioner?
Yes.
Controller?
Controller's office abstains.
And lastly, the CEA?
No.
Okay, so the motion does not carry.
Fine, so I withdraw my previous motion since the table continues.
So I make a motion then to adjourn this meeting, because there's no other matter before the board, requested as a special meeting.
Second.
Okay?
Okay?
Meeting adjourned.
And by the way, abstentions, all right, 4-4 by